Good afternoon, live from Toronto on the GBKM network. This is the Chat Up Show, the show where we catch you up with a chat up of our weekly headlines. I'm your host, Elizabeth Aloyde, and I hope that you are ready to chat it up with me today. Now, as always, you can keep up with the GBKM network in various ways. You can listen and watch live 24/7 at www.gbkm.fm or www.gbkm.tv. You can also watch us live on Facebook at GBKM Television and YouTube at GBKM TV, where you can like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. As you know, we love it when you join in the conversation here on the Chat Up Show. You can also follow us on Twitter at GBKM_FM and Instagram at GBKMFM. And you can download our free app that is available on the App Store and the Google Play Store for our Apple and Android users, where you can have all the same features that you see on the website. So any past shows that you may have missed, you can catch up there. Check out the upcoming shows so you don't miss them. You can learn a little bit more about our on-air personalities and hosts. You can check out our breaking news section. All of this and more, all available on our free app. So make sure you go right now to download your own app so you can take us with you on the go, anywhere and everywhere, and you'll be notified every time we go live. Isn't that great? So useful. Now, it is officially Black History Month. Happy Black History Month. This is the month that we get down here on the GBKM network, because you know we are all about celebrating our roots, our ancestry, all of that good stuff. So make sure you tune in to check out what we've got going on for the whole of this month to celebrate Black history. Now moving on to our topic for today. Robin Hood, the tale of Robin Hood, stealing from the rich to give to the poor. But if you have been keeping up with our week's headlines this past week, you may have noticed that there's a Robin Hood that is stealing the headlines, but maybe not necessarily for the same reason as our childhood story character. But before we dive into that, we're going to welcome our special guest and I guess co-host for today, who is joining our GBKM family as our latest host and I guess our financial guru, our very own network's financial guru. Well, without saying too much, welcome to the Chat Up Show, Alton Brooks. It's so good to have you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the introduction.
Of course, no problem. And happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month. It's
Yes.
a great month. It's, we're people to be proud, and we have a lot to be proud of. So, for sure, it's something that we should celebrate every day, but we'll take the month.
Yes, we'll take the month.
For sure.
We're happy to take the month, but you know it's Black History Month every day here.
Course.
Yes.
Of course.
Now, Alton, you have your show coming up.
I do.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? When can we finally see you debut on the network?
For sure, for sure. It's Smart Investing with Alton Brooks. It comes your way beginning February the 8th at 9 p.m. and it'll run till 9:30 p.m. You're going to watch that show because you're going to want to learn about making good decisions about investing. You're going to want to learn tips. You're going to want to understand how you can put yourself in a better situation to get better returns. You're also going to hear from other people in the business area, whether it be those that are running companies or those that are influential people, so that we can get some insights into how they make decisions, how they make their moves, so that we can all do some of the same. So that's one of the reasons we're having the show.
Smart investments, eh? It's really important, especially now. You know,
For sure.
People have been hit financially during this pandemic, so maybe it's the time for folks to tune in.
It definitely is the time. And we also, we will be putting the word smart investment on its head too, because a lot of people might think it's just one thing. But there's so many different ways that you can be a smart investor. You can invest in your education, for instance. You can invest in your children. You can invest in real estate. You can invest in stocks. There's many different ways that you can invest. So we're going to delve through all of that and come out with something that can help improve everyone.
So would you say what really makes your show stand out and is different from all the other, financial health help tips and whatnot shows out there?
Well,
is it?
Put it this way, what you're going to get from this show is something you can't get anywhere else. You're going to get insights you can't get anywhere else. And if you can get it anywhere else, you probably have to pay for it. But because, I'm someone who believes in community and believes in not just keeping knowledge that I have to myself, I'm some of what I know with our community so that they can also empower themselves. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing the show, is to also bring our community along, help them to better educate themselves. And if they wish to eventually try something, they'll have more knowledge about it versus just doing it blindly.
I think that's something that's really important to take note of, is within our community, let's say, those of African descent, financial literacy, especially in the last few years since the 2008 recession, has been such an important topic of conversation that a lot of people are realizing how important it is, no matter what socioeconomic background you're from, to kind of understand how your money works for you, how you can work for your money, how you can work smarter and not harder for your money.
For sure, because as everybody knows, you work very hard for what you have, and our tax system is so high that you get very little of what you actually earn. So when you get that little amount in your bank account, you got to make sure that that also works for you. That it just doesn't sit there and just get a bank charge month after month. That you can actually put it into different instruments that can have it actually working just as hard as you are. So it's important to understand that and have some idea about how, it's best to try to invest yourself, invest your time, invest your money so that you get a better return.
So can we get a quick exclusive as to what we can expect for this debut show, what to look out for, any little...
Well, I'd love to give you a couple of tidbits, and maybe I will, and maybe I won't. I'm still on the fence about that. But I can tell you, though, that we are going to touch upon some important topics that are, relevant right now. COVID, and COVID-19 has been one of those very big things that's happened to not only ourselves, but the economy, the world, Canada. That's going to be something I'll discuss on that initial show. We're going to talk about some businesses and how they're affected by that. And we're also going to have some tips, of course, on the stock market and things like that. But we will touch on COVID just a little bit and its effect on some businesses. But so look forward to that show. Tune in. And of course, you're going to get some tidbits on how to become a better investor. So make sure you tune in for that.
Yeah, make sure you tune in starting next Monday, February 8th at 9 p.m. right here
9 p.m.
on the GBCAM network. Yes,
For sure.
I'm going to be looking forward to that. I think that, as I'm getting older, more independent, learning how to make smarter investment choices, if you will, making smarter choices with my money is really important to me. We hear about growing generational wealth, building the foundation for, developing ourselves, especially as entrepreneurs out there. There are a lot of people who may not really understand how to start their investment portfolio, if you will. Now, I kind of want to pick your brain just a little bit as an expert, since we have you here, and I don't have to pay for this information.
All right.
Yes. So what would you say qualifies as a smart initial investment for someone who's, just trying to figure out, they have a disposable income for the first time. They want to start figuring out how to flip that money, make some more, and go from there.
Well, basically, a smart investment is something that's going to bring you some sort of accretive value, something that's going to be more than what it is today. For instance, you can buy a car brand new, you take it off the lot, you've lost 30% of the value of that investment. And as time goes on, that investment's going to go down to zero eventually. A smart investment is something that's actually going to help you grow that investment. So, for instance, if you buy a stock today at $100, 2 years from now it may be worth $200. So that investment has now proven to be effective for you. You may also invest in your education, for instance. You're not satisfied with the job that you have at $20 per hour. You invest in education to something you can get at $30 per hour. That is another kind of investment. You may not see the result now, but eventually you will see that. So there's many ways that you can invest. You can invest in real estate. You can, if you have a down payment for an investment property, you can rent that out and generate revenues on a monthly basis for that. So it just depends on what you look at. There are many different ways that you can utilize an investment, but at the end of the day, you want something that's going to add value. That's the most important thing to smart investing. Get something that adds value. If you're going to buy a stock, for instance, that pays a dividend, that's going to guarantee you income every month. That's a smart investment. You're getting money every month for something. So always look at getting something that can have a store of value and that can grow the value. And that's a good investment to start with.
Now, sometimes some of these investments take time for you to see a return
For
or
sure.
an ROI.
For sure.
Using some lingo
That's right.
there.
That's right.
Yes.
ROI.
I've learned a little something, something.
And that would be return on investment for those who are
Yes.
wondering.
There we go. Yes, teaching us. And then there's other things that you can do to, you get money straight away. You start seeing that return quicker. Now, in your opinion, I think that the two different things that, sometimes investing in stocks, it takes some time to see that investment return. And then investing in real estate, sometimes you can see it. If you find a great property that doesn't need to be fixed up, someone moves in straight away, you can start seeing the return on your investment in like a month. So in your opinion, for a first-time investor, would you say go the real estate route, or would you say be patient with the stock market?
Well, what I would say to someone is always just make a good strategy. Like a strategy that works for me may not necessarily work for you and may not necessarily work for someone else. Sit down and figure out what works for you. If real estate is what works for you, figure out a plan that you can stick with that works and consistently do that. If the stock market works, then do that. But I wouldn't necessarily say that there is one that's better than the other. But as an individual, you just have to know your situation and figure out, do I have money I don't need for right now, and how much that would be, and where the best investment to put that money would be. And again, too, it comes down to knowledge. If you're knowledgeable about real estate, then maybe that would be the best angle. If you're knowledgeable about stocks, maybe that's the best angle. So look at also what you know about. Because what happens a lot of times is, we may invest based on a friend telling us something. Oh, this thing is hot, or that thing is hot. But sometimes that's at the top of where it's going to be, and when you buy it, it just goes down from there. So the more knowledge you have is the more you can use that to further your investment goals. And when it comes to stocks, it's always good to be a patient investor. A lot of people are looking for, let's get rich overnight and buy something today, and it goes to 500,000 tomorrow. But it doesn't work like that. The stock market is kind of like a ladder. You got to take a step every day, and eventually, if it's the good stock, you'll get to many steps that'll double or triple that investment over time. But it won't happen overnight. So I would just suggest for whatever you plan to do, just to have patience, just to give it time, because time equals money. But you got to give it time in order for that money to grow.
And a lot of these millionaires and billionaires that a lot of people are comparing themselves to when they're thinking of starting to invest, they hear Elon Musk say like, oh, the company that I recently invested in, or the company that I helped start up, those sort of things, and you get excited. You're like, oh, I want to have that one day. That didn't happen overnight for Elon Musk either.
For sure.
Granted, he had a pretty good foundation. I mean, he wasn't born into a poor family. He was born into some kind of wealth, but the wealth that he has today didn't happen overnight. And I think that now, especially with the growth of social media, we're starting to see a lot of more people, and we have access to a lot of folks that we didn't really have access to before. We have more access to these people who are part of the Millionaires Club. They're making a lot more money. So
and especially for a lot of big companies today, 20 years ago they were in their garage. If you look at like the company Dell, for instance, Michael Dell, the owner of Dell, he started making computers in his basement, in his garage. And if you think, would I buy a computer from someone like that today? Probably not.
It's a little
but
sketchy.
he probably didn't tell anyone he was making it in his basement either.
I wouldn't.
So, a lot of times it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And that's where that vision is very important, where you got to know where you want to go and stick to that vision. And when things get rough, you continue sticking through it until you get to where you really want to go.
So what would you say are like the 3 biggest tips you can give someone right now? It's 2021, it's a new year, wanting to become more financially responsible. What are some of those 3 tips?
The very first thing I'd start with is it's okay to be a saver. It's okay to save. A lot of people right now, as soon as they get paid, they're thinking about, where do I need to spend it? What am I going to buy? The next jewelry, the next car, the next piece of material item. But I say to a lot of people, it's okay to be patient. You can let that money accumulate in your bank account. Nothing is wrong with that. And you can consider that even spending. You're spending it, but you're spending it in your bank account. You leave it right there, and you let it accumulate. So that's the first thing I can suggest to people is it's okay to save. You don't have to frivolously just spend money just for the sake of it, or just buy things just for the sake of it. It's okay to spend. The next thing I suggest is do a lot of reading. There's so much material online. There's so many books, so many magazines. If you want to get educated on something that you really want to learn about, that you want to invest in, there's so many materials out there that you can get for free, that you can become an expert in that just from utilizing that. So I suggest, lots and lots of reading of just everything that you can soak into and just learn and learn more about what it is that you're interested in. And the third thing is, it's okay to actually take some chances. If you haven't done something before, try it. It may just work out. If you have enough information and you feel that it's something you'd like to take advantage of, do it. For instance, if you've never opened a TFSA before, do it. 2021, open a TFSA. What that allows you to do is that any returns you make into that account belongs to you and zero goes to the tax man. So if that doesn't resonate to you, then that's something you need to look into. So everyone should actually own a TFSA. It's money for you, money you keep, and it's 100% yours, every single dollar that's earned in there. So those are the three things I would suggest right now.
See, now on the TFSA thing, I hear that a lot. And I don't know what it is about this past year, at least. I'm hearing a lot more from folks who are, interested in investing, interested in learning a little bit more about that side of things. So could you just break down what a TFSA is? I'm going to say I don't really understand what it is. So,
well,
and for, if you're also watching and you're like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
This is for us, okay? For those of
well,
us that don't know.
Previously a lot of people will be familiar with the term RRSP. That was a previous instrument that the government came up with where you can invest in something and get an immediate return back on your tax return.
Right.
So the thought is that you want to do something that you can help save for your retirement with. So it was an instrument that was used quite a bit. But, over time, I guess maybe through lobbying, I'm not sure, but the government decided that we're going to bring something else in that can say, we're lowering the burden on our taxpayers. Canada is one of the highest taxed nations in the world. And justly, we've got a great healthcare system. And we have a lot of different social services available to us that our tax dollars help to pay for. So I've got no issue with that. But at the same time, you want to have people with abilities to invest in different instruments that allow them to keep more money in their pockets. So maybe probably about 10 years ago is my estimate, they came out with something called the TFSA. And what that does, it allows you to put up to $6,000 per year on average. It's fluctuated up and down, 5,000, 10,000, 5,500. Sometimes it changes each year.
Yeah.
And that actually accumulates over time. So if you've never actually put a dollar into it, from the time that it came into law, you can actually go back and invest up to that amount, which I believe for this year, the maximum is probably about $75,000 if you've never put any money in before.
Wow.
So even if you wanted to start with 10,000, you can do that. So what that allows you to do is to put anything you want, a savings account in there. If you want to open stocks, you can put that in there. If you want to buy some other types of investments, dividends, whatever you put in there, whatever you earn from that, even if you can double or triple your money, that is your money without having to pay for it. So as an example, if I put money in a bank account and I make $100 of interest, at the end of the year, the bank's going to send me a statement saying, you made $100, here's your tax receipt, you got to claim that as income on your tax. So instead of doing that, you put that same money in your TFSA, you get that $100 is yours to keep. There is no tax on that. So that's why you have to look at, when you keep money in your regular bank account versus putting one in a TFSA, which one makes more sense? Because one you're being taxed on and one you're not. So if you have the ability to open a TFSA, then you should do that because that money is yours. Now, of course, when you take that money out and you put it into other instruments that make you money, you'll have to still pay taxes on that. But while it's in the TFSA, accumulating and compounding and things like that, all that money is yours.
And you can still function and invest within that TFSA
Of course,
account. Yeah.
of
so
course, of course. So it's like a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
Like everyone should have one of those accounts.
There you go. Look at that little gem. Y'all, You know,
And you
just,
can't get that anywhere
no,
else?
you're just dropping gems today for free. I hope we're taking notes. I'm gonna be taking notes throughout
For
this,
sure,
this
for
little
sure.
chat too.
You know,
Okay.
this is for the community.
Exactly.
So, you know, take advantage of it. You know, that's what I'm here for. A lot of people know me already, that I'm a community individual. There's a lot of things that I know that I, you know, wish to share and pass on some of that information. And I'll, you know, gladly do that as each week progresses. So please tune in on Monday nights, 9 to 9 p.m., 9 to 9:30 p.m. It's the Smart Investing with Alton Brooks show. It's going to be off the hook. You know, you're going to learn things you're not going to learn anywhere else. And I want you to tune in and don't miss it.
Now, just to go back to the inspiration behind the show, you know, you talk about how it's important for you to really reach out to the community and to help those within our community to, you know, make smarter investments. But what really pushed you? Because it's a leap. You know, it's not easy to sit here.
Yeah,
if I do
for
say
sure,
so
for sure.
myself.
You know, for 2021, I had made a goal that, you know, that I would be running my own business. And, you know, gladly I wasn't a great job.
Yeah.
And it was fulfilling all my needs. It was great. But still, you know, I'm an entrepreneurial person and always looking to be in control of my own destiny in a sense. And seeing that this is something that I've been doing for many years, as far as just for myself personally, I just decided to take it to another level by actually turning it into a business. So I'm actually running my own trading business for myself. So that's what I plan to do this year, and you know, I just decided to make that happen.
Yeah.
Now, in doing that, I just said to myself, you know what, our community as a whole are generally one of the fewest to be investing, to be knowledgeable about some of the things that we should know about. You know, we're not actually putting our resources and our money into things that actually can help us and help the next generation. You know, just like yesterday, I was actually talking to a friend of mine and asking him, if you were to pass today, what would you pass on to your children? And he's my age.
Yeah.
And you know what he said was, you know, I really have nothing to pass on. And you know, that just, you know, made me think, wow, you know, maybe if someone was able to say to you, even though they might have, but it just never resonated, you know, start thinking from now what you can do. Like for instance, when I mentioned before saving, if you just save $50 a week, that's $2,500 a year. Do that for 10 years, you have $25,000. There's something you can pass on. Just little things you can do just to get that going. But I say that just to say that, you know, I always feel that because of what I know, it can help me, but I also want to see our community come along as well. I just don't ever like to say that I'm going places, but going it alone, right? I think as a community, we're stronger together. And I also feel that, you know, if I have something to offer, I have no problem, you know, helping or providing a helping hand, whether it be mentoring, whether it be leadership, whether it be working to get to a common goal within a community. So something like this is easy for me, you know, just to say that, you know, it's part of giving back is how I look at it.
Yeah. Now, do you think that the reason our community isn't so eager to jump at the idea of, you know, investing in the stock market, even getting into Wall Street, because it feels so out of like reach, out of the loop, it just doesn't feel as accessible to our community?
I wouldn't necessarily say that, because there are plenty of people who are dabbling in the stock market, for instance. But I find that people are looking to just get rich overnight. You know, a lot of people are into very risky investments as well. And, you know, as they say, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. But at the end of the day, you don't always want to be taking the most risks. Because when you take the most risks, you also get hurt the most. So I find that in our community, we are investing, but we tend to invest in things that we want to get just a quick return on and just get to where we want to go like within a day or two. But investing is all about being patient, you know, taking your time, finding out what a good investment is and just letting it grow over time. There's no need to be rushing. So that's one of the things I want to impart in our community is just, you know, investing is patience. Once you learn to be patient, you make good decisions, and those decisions will then turn into lots of money-making opportunities. But just be patient.
Yeah. Patience. Patience is a virtue. Am I
For
right?
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Now, I do want to kind of pivot to the events of this past week, but before we get there, we're just going to take a quick break, okay? So once we come back from our commercial break, we're going to dive into what all of this Robinhood, GameStop, what it all means and what's going on for those who are a little confused like I was earlier this week. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Hello, I am Alton Brooks, your stock market and financial literacy expert. Look out for my new show coming soon on gbkm.tv, Smart Investing with Alton Brooks. Catch us live on Monday, February the 8th at 9 p.m. at www.gbkm.tv. You will learn how to get smart about your money, how to understand risk reward and diversification. You will also receive tools that will help you to become a better investor, which in turn will help create generational wealth for you and your family. This is a show you don't want to miss. See you soon, and I'll see you at the top. Hello.
Hello and welcome back to the Chat Up Show. I'm your host, Elizabeth Lloydie, and I'm joined here by our very own Alton Brooks, who is the host of the brand new Smart Investment Show right here on the GBKM network. Thank you, Alton, for joining us.
You are most welcome. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you bringing me on.
Of course, it's been such a good time. We've been getting some, tips, some gems from Mr. Brooks today. So I hope, as I said before, you guys had your notepad, pen, everything ready to take some notes. But of course, you can tune in to his show every Monday at 9 p.m. on the GBKM network right here to get some more tips on what it means to be smart with your investments in your life. This is 2021. We're going to make some good financial choices, okay? Let's make that a goal for ourselves. Set that as a resolution this year. And Alton is going to help us do that. Now, this past week, there has been some news of the stock market. I feel like it's become pop culture now. It wasn't before, that's for sure. We didn't see a lot of people talking about what's going on in the stock market, and it really all started from a Reddit thread. Now, are you familiar with GameStop and what's gone on?
I am certainly familiar, and
Yes.
it's basically like an inverted Robin Hood story.
Yes.
Because, Robin Hood basically stole from the rich, gave to the poor, but now the poor is using Robin Hood to take back from the rich. But the only problem is that the rich is who make the system and make the rules. So you can't necessarily break them, because then the system breaks.
Yep, exactly.
But we've seen it stretch though over the last couple of weeks, where because of the internet, because of the ability to do everything online now, and because of the ability to actually trade for free, because it doesn't cost you anything to put a trade in, you're seeing now a lot of investors going on forums and chat rooms and saying, hey, if I can get 1 million people to follow me and buy 100 shares of something, we can move the price of that stock in the direction that we want it to go. So basically with GameStop is someone decided, let me find out who out there of these so-called hedge funds, and what these hedge funds are organizations that find weaknesses in companies. And like anyone that's been maimed or injured, they try to take you out. So for instance, you're not having a good year, no one's buying your products, your inventory is piling up. These hedge funds will say, you know what, we think your business is going out of business, so we're going to help you go out of business by selling all your stock now. So when someone starts selling your stock, the only thing that happens is the stock goes down. But when it comes to, as they would call it, short selling, because you're selling something you don't own in order to buy it back to actually even it out.
Right.
So their thing is, if we put enough pressure on the stock, it may go down to zero. They could go out of business and we make all this money because we sold it at the top and we're going to buy it back way down there. So, these billionaires will buy 1 billion shares or 100 million or whatever, and they drive the price down. So astute investors started looking at it as, well, for GameStop, they actually have sold more shares than they are shares. Like, how do you do that? How do you sell shares of a company that has 100 shares, but you sold 200 shares?
How?
It can happen because you borrow shares that don't belong to you.
Right.
But then you multiple borrow. You borrow more than once. And therefore, for GameStop, at one point, they had shorted 150% of the amount of shares the company actually owns.
Wow.
So that's called leverage. You're borrowing on top of borrowing. And sometimes it happens because people are shorting and buying all different times, but it should average out after a couple of days. But some of these can go on for like months. So when they're this leveraged into the Down syndrome of a company, these forums now start saying, well, if we start buying this stock up, they're going to have to cover all of these shares, even the ones that they don't even exist. And they're going to have to buy it back at a higher price and therefore either break even or lose money.
And so this is what the rich do.
Of course.
Regularly.
Regularly, of course.
Right, okay.
I mean, for instance, you had a company called Herbalife. We had a billionaire who said, you know what, this is the Ponzi. This is not a real business. This is, it's fooling everybody. And for years, he kept putting billions into shorting the stock, trying to prove to people that it's going to go out of business. But they kept making money, so their stock kept going up. And he kept trying to bring it down. Until eventually he had to give up because the company is a real legitimate company.
Yeah.
And they make profits, and therefore his strategy did not work. So now that folks are realizing if they pool together and go after certain stocks, they can drive the price higher, which in turn will now make these hedge funds less want to be piling on some of these weak companies when they're down to try to take them out. And with GameStop being a retail store, everything's closed, you can't sell much. So, they have people who probably either believe in the company and wanted to stick around, or they're just tired of these hedge funds trying to put companies out of business. So they're putting their fight to the digital world and saying, if we pool our shares, we can drive the price higher, force them to sell, and take the pressure off some of these stocks, and possibly make some money for themselves at the same time.
Wow.
And the same thing happened with AMC, the theater chain. They also were heavily shorted. A lot of pressure to put them out of business because you can't go to the movie theater anymore, things like that. So, I'm glad that the average investor has decided to, at least use some smarts to do that.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people are worried about it, but personally, to me, it's a free market. If you're allowed to buy, 50% more than the shares of one company just to try to kill it, why shouldn't people be able to buy it on the other side? So I don't believe that they should have, stopped trading of the stock.
And that's what the issue is that Robinhood, it essentially I guess, not retaliation, let's not use that word because I feel like that's loaded, but in response to what was going on, they stopped the trading of restricted the trading of these shares with AMC, GameStop, and some other companies as well. And some people were, their reaction to that was, okay, so now Robinhood sees that, the quote-unquote poor are coming after the rich, and they want to stop the poor from coming after the rich so that the rich can continue to
in
be
fairness
making
to
the money.
Robinhood, what they've said on the record is that they were just not prepared for the amount of trading that was being done. And they have to cover a lot of their positions cash-wise when people buy things on margin and options. They have to give to their lenders and their financial backers certain deposits, and they weren't ready to manage the level of amount of business that was happening. That is what they say. Whether that's the truth or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But at this point, you're still able to buy, into those shares, but very little amount. For instance, with GameStop, you're allowed to only buy one stock at a time on Robinhood.
Yeah. Now, I mean, like we're talking about these things. So Robinhood is an app where you can trade for free, essentially.
Yes.
And that's an app that a lot of folks were using to dip their toe into the stock market.
Correct, because their thing is, and their advertising motto was, we're here for the little guys.
Yeah.
We're taking on the big behemoths, and we want you to come along, trade with us because we're like you. We're the little guy. But then it turns out that they're just kind of like the big guys because they're backed by the big guys. So,
That's why now a lot of folks are like, the hypocrisy.
Yes.
You started off Robinhood, it's a fitting name, but now it's clear that who you're playing for.
And they never actually thought that people would actually, use the internet as a tool to actually trade. And I think it's a great thing.
I mean, should have probably learned their lesson by now. The internet has been used as a tool for some time.
That's right. But I think it's something that's here to stay, though. They're, right as of today, for instance, they rotated into, precious metals. And silver and gold were what a lot of these forums were saying to push your money into. And that was driving up stocks of those that are shorted as well into that space.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that they do use that tool of going after companies that are shorted, because they have to then cover millions of these short sales with purchases. So the more you purchase, the price is going to now rise. So if you're buying in, more than likely it's going to go up. We're looking at GameStop was $40 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It traded probably in the $300 range as of last a couple days ago.
I just checked and I think it's back down.
It's back down again,
Yeah.
but it's up and
Well,
down.
actually, I don't even know. I saw the minus. It was in red. That means it's down now, right?
It's down, yeah.
Learning something.
That's right.
Something. But Robinhood CEO did come out and make a statement, spoke with CNN this past week, and he says, to quote, part of the reason why they stopped the tradings was to prudently manage the risk and the deposit requirements that we had to restrict buying in these 13 stocks, so the 13 companies as well. He then went on to say that we're in a historic situation where there's a lot of activity and a lot of buying concentrated in a relatively small number of symbols that are going viral on social media. We haven't really seen anything like this before. Now, would you agree that this is a historic moment when it comes to how the average person is looking at investing and looking to the stock market? Or do you think that this was kind of where things were heading?
Personally, I think it is a start of a new trend, and I think this trend is probably going to be permanent because, once something is found out to be a tool that can help you either to make money or to disrupt something, it's going to be continued to be used. And a lot of these traders, they feel that the big hedge funds are not there for their best interest. Many of them are just doing it to try to get back at them.
Right.
So I think that's going to continue to happen. What's going to change, though, is the hedge funds who used to pride themselves on coming out with news releases of their next endeavor to go after and close somebody down, they're not going to do that anymore. Because what they're going to do is give light to these internet forums for the next company to go after. Because basically what would happen is you'd buy a few shares in a company or sell them short, and then you put out a news release. This company is a fraud. They're going to go out of business, and then that drives the price down and you make money.
Yeah.
Now they can't do that because as soon as you do, folks on Reddit and other types of forums are going to say, okay, so you're the next target. That's one thing that's always going to change going forward is that they're going to be more on the sly.
Right.
They'll wait till they actually have to say that they bought something because by regulations, if you buy a certain amount of stock, you have to disclose it.
Yeah.
So they'll wait for that, but they won't actually come out with news releases now and champion that, they're going after somebody because they will be the target.
Well,
But, yeah.
They have to be a little careful about what they're doing now.
But I think the fact that you can trade for free online is definitely changing the dynamic of online investing.
And I think it's making it a lot more accessible because even just speaking from my personal experience, I always sort of saw the stock market as something that you had to go to school for, that you can't, get into Wall Street unless you were literally on Wall Street, that it was out of reach, that it was such an adult grown-up thing to do. I only ever heard my dad talk about stocks, so I was like, this sounds a little too much for me, like to handle all of this, like it feels like a little bit too much responsibility. But now we have these tools that are making it seem more tangible, more manageable, easier to understand, that they really do walk you through the steps and they really try to educate you.
And again, when I mentioned earlier about reading, there is so much free information online that you can practically just learn everything about everything you want to know without paying $1 for it. Because so many websites have so much free information, free charting tools, free tools on how to analyze a company, free tools on how to look at the technical aspects of whether a company's going up or going down. That if you really spend the time, you can figure it all out, and it's not that hard.
Yeah, just patience. Always coming back to the patience.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, something that I found a little funny was that the Financial Post, wrote about this whole situation and kind of called it the Wolf of Wall Street on steroids. Now, what would you say to that headline, that statement? That this whole shorting of stocks and GameStop and all of that is like Wolf of Wall Street on steroids.
Well, you know what? It really would have been the Wolf on Wall Street if, in fact, they hadn't intervened and stopped the trading that was going on in GameStop. I think it probably would have reached $1,000 or more.
Wow.
If they hadn't actually just purposefully slowed down the buying that was happening in that. Again, I didn't agree that they should have done that, but maybe they were afraid that these hedge funds would have gone out of business. They cares when companies go out of business, but they care about the hedge funds.
Yeah.
But, I think, again, it's just something that's going to be here to stay. and we just got to get used to it.
Yeah, and they should stop whining about it.
And they should stop whining. If it's free enterprise, you got to let it be free enterprise. That's all I say.
Yeah.
And what's good for the gander has to be good on the other side too.
Yeah.
So you can't just have a one-way system where you can try to kill my company, but I can't try to save it
Yeah.
on the other side.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's
because
just
it
not
doesn't
fair.
work for them, so now they're upset and they're
Right.
throwing a tantrum,
Yeah.
it seems.
That's right.
Ah,
But that's the beauty
I
of the
love
stock
it.
market. There's always something interesting going on. Again, that's where a lot of our businesses are, and that's where we need to be as well. Because if
Yeah.
business is there, we got to figure out how can we benefit from it, how can we learn from it, and try to get some investments from it that make sense.
And at the end of the day, like, to some extent, would you say that the consumer still controls the stock market, especially when it comes to these retail companies?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. The only reason that these ones actually got the headlines was the fact that they were so majorly shorted.
Yeah.
If you don't have hedge funds that are shorting to this level, no one really has an interest in it. But because we know that if you have more shares than actually a company has given out, if we start buying it up, you're going to have to sell shares you don't even have. And what if we don't want to sell them to you? But we'll sell it to you at $500, $600. So that caused a problem. So the only reason GameStop became a problem is because of the level of shorting
Right.
that the hedge funds were doing.
It made them uncomfortable.
Yeah, and once that level goes down to a normal level, 30%, 40% max, something like that,
Won't be a headline.
things will even out.
Yeah.
But until they sell, it's always going to be an issue.
Now, before we let go, I just want to, since it is Black History Month, and I think that, the black dollar, let's say, is a topic of conversation it's the topic that's been brought up in conversation quite a bit, but especially in this past year when we saw the Black Lives Matter movement really start to pick up and folks were thinking about which companies were really supporting the movement and who wasn't,
Right.
who you should be giving your money to. And then it brought up the conversation of Black Wall Street and how we can really develop the Black community's financial standing in the world, not just in the United States, not just in Canada, but across the globe as well. Like, support Black-owned businesses, shopping Black-owned businesses. Now, I bring up Black Wall Street because this year it will be the 100th year since the Tulsa race massacre that occurred, I guess, in response to just racial tensions.
Yeah, they dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, it was citizens who kind of took it into their own hands to go and destroy a lot of businesses. Within 24 hours, it's reported that at least over 30 businesses were destroyed. 30 square blocks were destroyed. About 1,200 houses were destroyed and burnt over what seemed to be just misunderstanding, miscommunication. But because there was so much racial tension, this is what it led to. And since it's Black History Month, I think it's important we discuss Black history. And
For
this is
sure.
a big part of Black history, especially when we're thinking of Black financial autonomy, that they were able to build within this town
Right.
their own and their
That's right.
own businesses, their own economic way of doing things. I'm trying to find the right terms here.
Well, they built a community of
There we
businesses.
go. Yeah.
It's like basically going to a part of Brampton or a part of Markham or a part of mid Toronto where you
Yeah.
see different cultures with their sub businesses all around. It was something just like that. If you needed banking, there was a bank.
Yeah.
If you needed your clothes dry cleaned, there was a dry cleaner. There's a drugstore. There's everything. And unfortunately, due to situations at that time, people were not happy seeing Black folks succeed. And they had, I guess, the wherewithal and the means to actually destroy that. But, as we have been the most resilient people ever, and we will continue to be, and we always will be, I do believe that that is something that can happen again. And I believe that it will happen again.
How?
Slowly but surely, for one. Again, that word patience comes in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that wheels are turning in motion for that to happen. Right now, for instance, there is a group of organizations that's working on bringing a credit union to Ontario. So that itself will bring a lot of people together, a lot of organizations and a lot of individuals like-mindedness to do business, to conduct commerce. And from there you can branch out. We have the literacy piece. If you look online these days, there are a lot of folks that are helping and providing financial literacy in many different forms. So kudos to them for continuing to put it out there.
Yourself included.
Myself included.
Yeah.
But there are some who actually do it from, a smaller, younger level, whether it be kindergarten, whether it be high school.
Yeah.
We got to start young so that by the time that you're, 18 or so, you're so versed in it that it's a part of you. Even with my children, we talk about investing, we talk about stocks, and they say, hey, Dad, how does this work? How does that work? And you take your time and you show them that. You show them that it's okay to put a few dollars in your piggy bank all the time. And it can stay there and it can grow until you actually want to put it somewhere. So it's important. I think we'll get there, but again, it requires our community to work together. It requires us to just be humble, and it requires us just to get rid of any ego we have, because a lot of times what gets in the way of us working together is just ego. You have an idea, and I may think it's a good idea, but because I want to get the glory for it, I don't want to come along. I want to just start my own. But if we find things that we have in common, and just work from that angle of what we have in common, the things that we don't have in common will eventually fade away, and we just work with what we have in common. But what we need to have in common is that ability to see that there's always a bigger picture. There's always a bigger community aspect of things. And like I said earlier, part of why I'm doing this is to just bring some what I know to the community.
Yeah.
When we work together, eventually it'll always be better than just working alone. So I think, though, that we have a lot of grassroots work being done, lots of grassroots organization doing a lot of good work. And it doesn't show overnight, but I think over time we shall see that we will once again build that kind of Wall Street situation where you can find anything you want within the walls of our community. I totally believe that.
Because there's this almost feeling that a lot of people have that, Black people don't love to support Black-owned businesses. They don't love to support their own. They love to go to what they know, that we would rather shop at, the devil we know than the angel we don't know. And I personally don't believe that's true. In my own experience, I've seen that there's a great support within our community for what what we feel needs to be supported. When the time comes, we will rally. And I think that we really did see that with the peaceful protests that we saw across the globe this year alone.
Yeah.
And that this isn't just within North America, this isn't just within Canada, like this is across the world.
I think, though, that we do have to stop being reactionary. Like, a lot of times we only do things after something happens. Like, we had that unfortunate public death of Mr. Garner last year. And, everybody rose up and decided to do something, whether it be boycotting or supporting a local business. But then we saw that only for a few weeks, and then it kind of fizzled away. So we have to stop being reactionary. We have to start making things like that being something that we do regularly. It's part of supporting our own. Yes, we may go to a store and it's going to be a few dollars more. But go up to the owner and say, hey, let me bargain with you because, I don't have the money to pay you more because the other guy's cheaper, but I want to support you. How can we make it work so that we can do business? We need more dialogue like that. We need more owners of establishments and stores and other outlets and businesses to be more forthcoming in a customer service kind of way. Go above and beyond to try to bring in that customer that's not sure about doing business with you because they've had a bad experience. Show them why they should do business with you. Show how professional you are. Show that you can be timely. Show that you can produce what you're selling and do it in a professional and timely kind of way. So we do need to build trust. I believe, though, that if our businesses look at the fact that they're in business to serve, then they will do well. It's when you're not looking at the customer service aspects of things, you're only out to make a quick dollar, that you forget that your customer is the most important part of your business. So once you learn that, that itself will start helping you towards, staying in business and someone shopping with you, not because you're the cheapest, but because they like your service.
Yeah. And I think that that's a great note to end on. Just a little inspiration for our business owners out there. But before you go, one fun question.
For sure.
If you won the lottery tomorrow, what is the first smart investment you would make?
Well, the first thing I would do if I won money tomorrow is I would just put it in an investment and not do anything with it for at least 3 months.
Why 3 months?
Well, I would need time to figure out the best strategy to put it to work for me.
That's true.
So again, it's not about splurging and just buying anything and everything that you want. It's about strategizing. Everything you do when it comes to investing should involve a strategy. What's the outcome that you want, and what do you have to do to make that happen?
Right.
So, if you come into a lot of money today, don't just run out and frivolously spend. Put it aside, and when you figure out what you really want to do with it, that's the time to go out and utilize it.
See, this is why I'm not doing your show, because I was like, I would buy an apartment or a house straight away. I wouldn't even wait the 3 months.
If you put a couple tenants in there, that's not bad.
You start a little small, start medium, still have some money to like put away, save.
I mean, but of course, you'll buy a little something.
Something, just to
But,
remind
for the most
yourself.
part though, when it comes to investing, I always find it's always best when you keep your emotions out of what you do.
Yeah.
Because when you put your emotions in it, you'll find yourself holding on to something that's not working longer than you should because your heart's attached to it. When it comes to trading, for instance, I have zero emotions. If my stock is not working, I sell it.
Yeah.
If it's working, I keep it. It's very simple.
This is why I feel like I can't get into, because I'll be like, I know the owner of the company, I know where they started, I know what it means to them, I know the importance of me investing my money, and I'd get too emotional. I'd be too attached.
This is what you just tell them. It's strictly business.
Yeah. I have to keep telling myself that.
It's strictly business.
Use your brain and not your heart.
That's right.
When it comes to money, especially, you got to be smart about it.
Got to be smart. This
Yeah.
is the year to be smart, 2021.
Yes.
Smart Investing with Alton Brooks coming Monday, February the 8th, 9 p.m. to 9:30. Check it out.
I love it. I love that you're self-promoting yourself. I don't have to tell you to do that, because I was literally going to say, remind our lovely chatter right now watching to tune in.
Well, I know that people are going to gain insights from it. I know that they will benefit from it. So it's easy for me to say that.
Yes.
Because nothing I'm saying is not something I'm not living. So that's why it's easy for me to actually do what I do.
And it is something that's very important and for folks to know about and understand. We
sure.
all need to know how to be smart with our money. That's not, and even as you said, from a young age. I remember I would always say in high school, like, why don't they teach me how taxes work? Why don't they teach me how to be smart? Teach me how to save. I don't know how to save. I feel like I need to be taught the smart ways to save instead of just telling me put money away.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see something I like and I'm gonna be like, well, there's money there, so.
Yeah.
But it's that habit, and once you start young, it stays with you for longer.
For sure.
Yeah, but they say a habit is formed in 21 days, so try saving for 21 days and see how you feel.
And then save another 21 days on top of
Yes,
that.
and then another one after that.
And then you invest.
There we go. That's like 3 months.
There
yeah.
you go.
There we go.
It's just 3 months.
It adds up. So again, once more before we go, we are watching and tuning in.
Please tune in on Monday, February the 8th, from 9 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. It's the Smart Investing with Alton Brooks show. We're going to be bringing you tidbits on how to become a better investor. We're going to bring you information that's pertinent to our community. We're going to introduce you to ideas and other strategies that will help you just, whether from a life perspective or just from a personal perspective or from a family perspective, to create some sort of generational wealth for your family this year.
Generational wealth. I love that. It's like music to my ears. Help set up your future generations. But yes, that is all here on the GBKM network. And with that, that concludes our show for today. Thank you so much, Alton, for joining us and for giving us our tips and gems. Now, for our viewers at home, you can keep up with the GBKM network by watching and listening live 24/7 at www.gbkm.fm or www.gbkm.tv. You can also download our free app from the App Store and the Google Play Store, GBKM, where you can also watch and listen live 24/7, receive notifications when we go live, check out our past show, check out the upcoming shows, all of that good stuff. Comment, like, share, great stuff. Follow us on Twitter at GBKM_FM and Instagram at GBKMFM. And you can follow me, your host, on Instagram and Twitter at TIS_Liz_O. And with that, I will see you at the same time, same place next week. I will chat with you later. Take care.
I'm Alton Brooks, your stock market and financial literacy expert. Look out for my new show coming soon on gbkm.tv, Smart Investing with Alton Brooks. Catch us live on Monday, February the 8th at 9 p.m. at www.gbkm.tv. You will learn how to get smart about your money, how to understand risk reward and diversification. You will also receive tools that will help you to become a better investor, which in turn will help create generational wealth for you and your family. This is a show you don't want to miss. See you soon.
GBKM TV, the station with a vision. GBKM TV, the station with a difference now. Slim Flex said so. Big up Ghana, up. GBKM TV, the station with a vision. GBKM TV, the station with a difference now. Slim Flex said so. Big up Ghana.